Okay, today we are dealing with a coaster brake, and a while actually since I've dealt with one of these. It's not exactly a modern mechanism for bicycles, certainly not a mountain bike. It was back in the days of Gary Fisher and his buddies going downhill on a modified cruiser with a coaster brake. People don't generally do that anymore. Sometimes I'm certain that they do. Every generation has crazy people, and I can appreciate that. But this coaster brake is not working properly. I loosened it up a little bit when I took it off the bicycle that I got it from, off of an actual new cruiser, a very cool one. A very cool. I'll fly in some B-roll of that. A very cool cruiser, but I left it there in the garage, and I just brought the back wheel home. And I'm going to open it up. I kind of haven't done this in a long time. Not since the orange cruiser build have I opened up a coaster brake hub, and that's been about 4 or 5 years or so. Okay, the first time that I ever did this, it was probably, I don't know, I was a kid, maybe 9 years old. And I had to figure out how to do it, or I didn't have a bicycle to ride. So, let's get into it. Now, when I opened it slightly, I could see that it was dry, and I mean dry. I can think of an endless amount of cliches to apply to how dry it was, but I'm not going to get into that. Well, maybe I will. Dry as a bone, dry as a dusty old road, dry as a corn cob, and my favorite, dry as a popcorn fart. So I'm going to put on some of these gloves. It's about 11:30 at night, and I can't sleep, so I'm going to go ahead and make a video. What do you think? I don't have the cool black ones. I got the cool black rubber gloves, and I'm doing work, by God. All right, these aren't cool. These are blue. Well, they're cool because they're this is more about functionality than anything. All right, let's do it. Well, this isn't going to be the highest quality video. It's not going to be in 4K. In fact, it's not even in 1080. It's probably in 720. I don't know. Who knows? It's the front camera on my cell phone, and I haven't used that camera in quite some time. Why not, right? I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to lay everything out and see what is what. Because it's having trouble turning, the brake pads in there could have gotten out of line somehow. One of them parts could have gotten stripped out. Whoever had this thing tight, oh, there it goes. I just broke torque on it. It was so tight. In fact, speaking of cliches, it must have been tighter than a gnat's butt, tighter than a frog's butt. And that's waterproof. Tighter than air, as in airtight. Tighter than a wound-up spring. All right, enough of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cone out, and I honestly, I don't know the diameter of it. I don't know what the size is. I should. What I'm going to do is measure it and match a wrench to it. Although my crescent wrenches are going to be way too wide, so I'm just going to grind it down. And then hanging on my tool wall, my cool tool wall, we'll call it a bike builder's backsplash, if you will. And save it for future use. There we go. Here we go. I'm going to get everything off on this side first. Place everything in alphabetical, sequential, numerical order, consecutive, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm just going to take it off and sit over here and figure it out later. I'm thinking that these bearings are kind of ground up. They might be squared off because, again, this thing was tighter than a fuselage. All right, just as I suspected, there's a set of bearings right there. Uh-oh, and they look like bearings, frankly. Now, when I pull this back side of the coaster brake off, the brake pads are probably going to fall out. At least I think so. Yeah, there's one, and there's two. There's two brake pads And that looks like it needs to be serviced. Okay. All right. No worries. There's another deal in here, and it's called the technical term for it is chingadera. If you're from Texas, you know what that means. There we go. One thing at a time. Those bearings on that side, these bearings on this side. Yeah, there's the cone. Well, there's no loose bearings on that side, so I'm going to take out this deal, and that faces that way. Yeah. So these two brake pads go on the outside of that. I mean, this grease is really thick. What is that? What kind of grease is that? It doesn't matter because it's about to be gone. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna clean it up with WD-40 and I say my usual thing, but it's not actually going to be that because, like I said, I haven't worked on a coaster brake in quite some time. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to get it cleaned up, organized. I don't remember the order that I took everything off in, but I'm going to get it organized, get it put back together, and yeah, get it back on this cruiser, get on down the road. All right. Look there. Yeah. I'm not going to get too greedy. Like I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Right on. It is cold outside. It is just about freezing outside. So, like anything, when it gets cold, it's going to harden up. Depending on what it is, at least to some degree, it's going to harden up. If it has that effect on it, then I'm guessing that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be on these parts. I'm going to use the kind of grease that I use on just about every build, which is more of a universal consistency. I use it for everything. I don't have specific grease for specific parts. This is not dream build, ladies and jelly spoons. This is a hairy-chested man's blue-collar build. All right? All right? I like to sweat. I like to make my tools. And I like to fix things that are broken. Give old things new life, like Brian says. All right, I don't disagree with him. He's a lovely dude. Don't know him, but I am a fan. Yeah, that'll do. All right. I ain't trying to make it look pretty. I'm just trying to get it clean and back together. Okay. Now I'm not going to get all crazy and take that all apart, even though I did get some WD-40 in there. Hey, big deal. Cool thing is I can take it apart as many times as I need to, put it back together as many times as I need to. WD-40 is what I use as a degreaser. I use it for so many things, but it is a degreaser. It's not very expensive, and it just works. It's not an official mountain bike or bicycle degreaser that you get at the bike shop with the cool logos and the pink and black boxing or whatever. It's just a good degreaser. I use it for several things. I use it on my vehicles. I use it on my just about everything, really. All right, so we're cleaned up, and let's get it greased up and put back together. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the way this is orientated, it's very specific, and for whatever reason, it's been confusing to me. The very first time I was younger than 10 when I did it for the very first time, but back in those days, that was almost all that was available to you. If you had a freewheel back then, you were high society. But I wasn't. If I wanted a bike, I had to fix it, I had to build it. But to be honest with you, I wasn't the only one in my neighborhood that did that. Everybody turned a wrench. That's just where I grew up. But for whatever reason, the last time, 5 years ago, was the last time I had opened up one of these. I still had the same. I was still confused. I still couldn't do it. Customers have come to me and they've asked the same question over and over. How do you properly orientate the inside of a coaster brake? All right. Well, I'm going to try to keep it simple. Okay, the bearings go up towards the hub, the bearing cage where the actual ball bearings are exposed. They go towards the cage. This spring here has 2 tabs on it. Okay, it has 2 tabs on it, and if you can see, there are 2 slots, one on each side, that these line up with. Just insert that on the actual small axle into those 2, into that area right there, into those 2 slots for the tabs. Okay, these brake pads just fit on the bottom. I like to call this part of the brake pad the feet, this lower tab here. It face that towards the actual bearing cage on the bottom, and they'll fit right in there. Put one on each side. Okay, just like this here. Boom, and there you go. Okay, and that then inserts into the hub, and then the sprocket inserts the other direction and screws right down into this here. Okay, we'll get to that here in a second. Here we go. All right, so let's get it greased up and put it back together. Okay, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take my grease pen and I'm going to do the usual. Well, I'm trying to be neat with it. Or am I? I don't know. It's getting greased. All right. These little small tabs go on the bottom to where they fit on each side. All right, now you don't have to cake on the grease. You really don't. You don't, but I'm going to put some on the outside of that. I'm going to hold this in place, okay, while I lift this up and insert it from the bottom while I'm holding the brake pads in place. It's going to go through the center of the sprocket, and as I get closer to it, I'm just going to screw it on like this here. Okay. So now let's screw it on. Okay. There we go. It's screwed on. And then I'm going to take this cone and I'm going to bring it all the way down to make sure that it's finger tight. Okay. Not tighter than a fuselage, not tighter than a gnat's butt, but tight where there's not a whole lot of play because we want the wheel to turn. Okay. It doesn't need to be waterproof. I'll take it apart and redo it as many times as I have to do it. And that goes for all 20 bikes sitting in the shop right now. That's what I do, brother. Good times. Good times. Okay, finger tight. Look at that. Perfection. Boom. Go the other way. Hit the brakes. Boom. Okay. Good. All right. So again, finger tight. There's no play. Nothing's rattling around in there. It is absolutely 100% completely serviced and ready to roll. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on the corresponding bicycle, take it for a spin, and yeah, move on to the next one. So that's how you do it. Okay. If you guys have any questions, just leave me a question or two in the comments. Say hello. Like and subscribe if you have not done so by now, and let me know what else you want to see. Now, again, I am a generalist. The next video that you may see may have something to do with music or martial arts, or one of the other things that I'm very busy with, equally as busy with as I am with building, restoring, doing whatever else it is that I do. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Okay. Love y'all. Later. One last thing. The diameter of this cone that's right here by the sprocket, it has a lock bolt on it, which is two bolts that go together, which is the cone and the actual lock-on bolt. You have to tighten them together. So keeping the cone in place while you tighten the lock bolt on top of there. Problem is this: if you do not have a tool that is narrow enough to fit underneath that lock bolt onto the cone, what do? Well, you can order one from Park Tool, Temu, Amazon, and you can wait about 150 years for it to show up. By that time, you really don't feel like working on it anymore. You've already moved on to a different project. At least I will. There's 20 of them sitting in this shop right now. Or you can make your own. Let's do it. That'll do it. This has been grinded down somewhat so that the diameter matches the space between the sprocket and the lock nut. Okay, and you still have a couple of millimeters to spare. Okay. While this is secured onto the cone, you take your lock nut and then you tighten these two together. Now the cone is finger tight onto the sprocket and onto the axle, onto the sprocket and onto the axle. So what I'm doing is I'm going to hold the cone in place and bring the lock nut, tighten it down to the cone, and it didn't have any effect at all whatsoever on. Didn't have any effect whatsoever on how tight the cone is. Okay, mission accomplished. There you go. Made me some tools, got this fixed, and it's good to go. Looks like everybody's gonna be happy. All right, good times are afoot. Your good friend X, right? We'll see you guys next time. Peace. Oh yeah, you can have this back.